Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Today, on the 26th of August 2026, would be 207 years since the birth of Prince Albert. Now, you all might be sitting there and thinking, wait Tilda, did you make this video back in December for his death anniversary? And you'd be correct, however that video is outdated and I've got new knowledge since then, and so I want to fix the previous video's mistakes. If you didn't know already, Prince Albert is actually my favourite royal, not just British royal but royal in general. And so today I want to explore his life from his birth up until his death. Prince Franz August Karl Albert Emanuel was born at 6 a.m. on the 26th of August 1819 at Schloss Rosenthal in Coburg. Albert's father was the 35-year-old Ernst Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Ernst was the oldest son of the previous Duke of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, Franz, and his wife Augusta of Reuss-Ebersdorf. Albert's mother was the soon-to-be 19-year-old Louise, Duchess of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld. Louise was the only daughter and child of Augustus, Duke of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, and Louise, Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Schwerin. The next day, on the 27th of August, Augusta wrote to her daughter Victoire, Duchess of Kent, saying, "The date will of itself make you suspect that I am sitting by Louise Chen's bed," Louise Chen being a nickname for Louise. She was yesterday morning safely and quickly delivered of a little boy. Sebald, the accuser, being the obstetrician who helped during the birth, had only been called at 3, and at 6 the little one gave his first cry in this world, and looked around like a little squirrel with a pair of large black eyes. When Albert was less than a month old, on the 19th of September, he was christened in the marble hall of Schloss Rosenthal by the Lutheran pastor Professor Gensler. The preacher at the ceremony said, "The good wishes with which we welcome this infant as a Christian, as one destined to be great on the earth, and as a future heir to everlasting life, are the more earnest when we consider the high position in his life in which he may one day be placed." Albert's godparents were his paternal grandmother, Augusta, Duchess of Saxe-Coburg-Saalfeld, his paternal grandfather, Augustus, Duke of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, Francis I, Emperor of Austria, Albert Casimir, the Duke of Teschen, and lastly Emmanuel of Mensdorf-Pui. From birth, Albert was destined to marry his cousin, Princess Alexandrina Victoria of Kent. He was only 3 months older than he, and if all went according to plan, she would be Queen of the United Kingdom, and Albert would be her husband. Not long after Albert's birth, his parents' already well-restrained marriage collapsed even further. Louise was absolutely miserable, and she often complained about the fact that Ernst was having affairs with other women. Despite this, she absolutely doted on Albert during his early infancy. However, in 1824, Louise was exiled from court after she married her lover, Alexander von Heinstein, Count of Polzig-Bersdorf. Alexander and Louise didn't actually marry until 1826. As in 1826, Louise and Ernst officially divorced, although she had been living outside of Coburg for 2 years. In 1825, Louise's uncle, Frederick, Duke of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, died, and the title passed down to Louise, although officially it was actually Ernst's title, and he became the first Duke of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. The separation and divorce of his parents' marriage had a big impact on Albert and his older brother, Ernest. The two became exceptionally close, and they were educated together like twins as they were only 14 months apart, although Albert was the more intelligent of the two of them. Albert's childhood was a rather unhappy one, as he and Ernest were often left alone without a parental figure, as their mother was away in exile, and their father was away with his new wife. Despite being a very clever child, Albert often cried during lessons, and his tutor occasionally pinched him. Albert's lessons would begin at 8 a.m. in the morning, and they'd finish at 7 p.m. in the evening. The subjects he was taught were world history, geography, mathematics, chemistry, Latin, music, English and French. And of course, he was taught how to speak German. As Albert began to reach the age of adolescence, he began to be taught German history, and he also began to draw more and got very well at it. However, just 4 days after Albert's 12th birthday, his mother died. However, he and Ernest were not told of the event until later, as according to their stepmother, they are not being told of her suffering, as that would make them too unhappy, and in November of also 1831, Albert's grandmother Augusta also died. In May of 1836, Albert and Ernest travelled to England, where they met Princess Alexandrina Victoria for the first time. Despite thinking that Albert was rather handsome, Victoria was not attracted to Albert, and he was not attracted to her. The two at this point were only cousins, and they did not want to marry yet, as they were obviously too young. After meeting Victoria, Albert, now 17, went to the University of Bonn, where Ernest also joined him, although for a short period, as he was of course older. Albert studied law, political economy, philosophy, and the history of art. He also played music and sports such as fencing and riding. In October of 1839, Albert and Ernest once again travelled to England to spend time with Victoria, who at this point had been reigning the United Kingdom for 2 years. This time the two fell in love, and on the 15th of October 1839, Victoria proposed to Albert. He could not, as he was not the sovereign. Despite the match not being popular with the Privy Council and the public, Victoria was of course stubborn as always, and was determined to marry him. Albert at this point was titled His Serene Highness Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. However, just before Victoria and Albert's marriage, he was given the title of His Royal Highness by an Act of Council. On the 10th of February 1840, in the private chapel of St. James's Palace, Victoria and Albert were married. Despite the, scandals and messages that many royal men had at the time, Albert was actually a virgin on his wedding night, which, although nowadays we'll see as just a normal thing, back then it was a quite big deal. For the first 17 years of Victoria and Albert's marriage, Albert was given no title. He only was given the more high title of His Royal Highness and a Knight of the Order of the Garter, which really anyone can get if you have enough power. However, finally on the 25th of June 1857, Albert was actually properly given a title, and that was Prince Consort, and to date he's still the only man married to a queen who's given the title of Prince Consort, at least in Great Britain. Not even Prince Philip was given it, as he declined it. On the 21st of November 1840, Victoria and Albert had their first child, Princess Victoria, who of course was named after her mother, although she'd be known as Vicky in the family. 8 more children followed after Vicky. Prince Albert Edward, born in November of 1841, and he was known as Bertie. Princess Alice, born in April of 1843. Prince Alfred, born in August of 1844, and he was known as Affy in the family. Princess Helena, born in May of 1846, and he was known as Len Shen in the family. Princess Louise, born in March of 1848, Prince Arthur, born in May of 1850, Prince Leopold, born in April of 1853, and finally Princess Beatrice, born in April of 1857, and who was known as a baby in the family. Albert was an especially doting father towards his children. However, he was also rather strict with them at times and made sure that they achieved a good education, because he knew that his daughters were going to be good queen consorts in the future, and his sons would be good in the military and maybe future English dukes. Albert himself was a bit of an architect, as when he and Victoria purchased Osborne House to be their family retreat, he designed the palace and made sure that his children could grow up without court. He also was a rather talented musician and composer, and he composed the music for his wedding, and anyone at the time said that Albert's playing of music was rather brilliant. Albert was also a supporter of Jewish people, and he also helped abolish slavery. While Albert was not the first person to introduce the Tannenbaum, which is German for Christmas tree, to Britain, he most certainly popularized it. Not only did Albert bring the tradition of the Christmas tree from Germany, but he also brought many other German traditions, which nowadays are now British traditions, so we can thank Prince Albert for any Christmas traditions that we put up in our houses. Probably Albert's most greatest achievement, though, was of course the exhibition of 1851, which was designed to be the Crystal Palace, and it was a massive success. Despite being a very intelligent man, Albert's health was not so great. Albert was prone to rather bad stomach cramps, and even just a cold could prove rather bad for him. By the early 1860s, Albert had fully lost his will to live, and he was rather depressed. In November of 1861, Victoria and Albert found out that Bertie was sleeping with an American actress while he was studying at Cambridge. Despite being rather ill, Albert went down to Cambridge to reprimand Bertie, and the two talked along while in the rain. Albert fell seriously ill, and he admitted to his wife that he was likely going to die. Victoria did not believe him and had a lot of hope, although their daughter Alice did agree with Albert that he was definitely not going to live. On the 14th of December 1861 at 10:50 p.m, the 42-year-old Albert died at Windsor Castle in the Blue Room, surrounded by Queen Victoria and 5 of their 9 children. While the diagnosis at the time was typhoid fever, modern historians now believe that Albert actually died from Crohn's disease. However, that is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. This took a lot of time, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye!